Hello everybody, Thomas Fleming here. Still dealing with a cloudy day. It's not terribly bad, it's not terribly cold. I don't have my jacket on, but it's just kind of a gloomy day. That's all right. Last day in the park, so I'm just going to get out and hike a little bit. Somebody's just come into the park, going to hit one of the trails. Should be safe. Okay, I'm back. When people come along, I sometimes have to shut this off so that I don't get people on the screen. Don't want to be liable for putting people's imagery up without taking names and getting authorization. I have started posting my links on Telegram are coming from Rumble now and not from YouTube. I need to replace those going through. I'm not going to go back and replace the ones I've already done. But anything new going up, I'm going to make sure that the Telegram link is from Rumble so that hopefully it will stay functioning. I'm thinking that after we're gone, YouTube will probably take my site down, and hopefully Rumble and Telegram will stay up for a little longer. Ultimately, this big bad government, world government, can do anything they want to do because there's not going to be anyone to stop them. So I would expect that everything will come down. They may take power down and the grid down everywhere and then go back in and turn it on piece by piece as they approve it. So there may be very little. Christianity will probably have to go underground for those left behind. There will probably be very little resources. So when you're creating your stash, your left behind food for relatives or friends, be sure to have Bibles in there because they probably won't be able to find them. And online Bibles will probably disappear. All right, I'm heading to my seat. I'm just kind of wanting to talk today. It rained again this morning. We seem to be in that cycle where all it does is rain. That's okay. It fills the reservoirs up so we don't have droughts later on in the summer. We've been having too many of those lately, and we're not releasing enough water down the rivers. The other states are complaining and wanting more of it. Some states basically have sued the federal government saying Georgia doesn't own any of the water. It all belongs to Florida, Alabama, take your pick. Which is absurd, but it gets the message across that they're going to have to compromise. There's no compromise when it comes to doing right or wrong. You can only compromise on the degree of right, I guess. It's quiet now that the rain's gone. The animals aren't really out. The birds are probably drying their feathers someplace. And I'm sitting here in this swing set, and I've got my swing set at the next park too. They've got one like this. And if they have a really big hole underneath it where people drag their feet, and if it rains, it's like 4 inches of water. So I got to be careful when I use that one. It is interesting to watch, not knowing the time, just watching the things happen. We're still moving. If we know all the things that are coming, we're still moving in the right direction. The right direction for us to get out of here. The world's going totally in the wrong direction. But this isn't our home. There are people trashing our home. I was reading a report and watching a video yesterday. They've had to change their global getting warm message to we may be headed for an ice age. Satan always delivers the opposite of what's coming. He's bringing, with his people, when they go, they're going to go very hot. So he's telling us that the world's going into an ice age to be opposite of what they're really going to get, the lake of fire. Again, we don't have to worry about any of this stuff. We just got to convince our friends and family. I'm going to recommend, again, I've mentioned this in some comments, but I just want to reiterate that don't get into major arguments with people. Find the common ground and stay there. If you get into an argument, you've isolated yourself. We have to be able to talk to people. We have to be able to convince them they're wrong. If we're never going to be able to convince them, at least convince them to listen to us. So when we're gone, they'll remember. Don't show them a bad side. Don't argue with them. Don't tell them you don't want to ever talk to them again. Because then they're going to always think, well, I made the right decision because this is what Christianity is. These are evil people who yell at people all the time. Don't give them that ammunition. Be so pleasantly nice that they can't stand it. We're told that if we pray for our enemies, it's like heaping coals of fire on their head. So just take everything with the love of Christ. You only saw him in a couple times react, and the temple was one, but that was his father's house that they were making money off of. So we had him clean it. That was a holy place, and he shouldn't have been doing that. They could have done what they were doing, but they could have done it outside, but not up there. Now, that particular area is going to be open to the Gentiles coming forward with the new temple. But Jesus defended his father and his house. But in general, with people, he'd talk to them, they'd see that he's doing miracles, and then he'd leave. And if he didn't convince them, then they're lost. God knows, Jesus knows that there's a certain number of people that are just plain lost, and there's nothing you can do. You don't need to waste your time on them. That doesn't mean for you to make a decision to give up on somebody. Do what God says, talk to them, and then if they don't want to have anything to do with it, leave. If they want to talk to you and they want to learn more, stay and talk, and bless the house as you're leaving. We have a procedure to deal with here, but it says to present the Bible lovingly, kindly. Long-suffering is one of our gifts. But whatever it is, God's going to direct you. He's going to help you anyway, so don't be doing any of this stuff on your own. Because Satan will step right on in and bury you in arguments that you can't possibly win at. As I tell people all the time, if we're rock solid on the gospel, the rest of it's immaterial. It's academic. It'd be nice to know about prophecy and all this other stuff, but if we get the gospel right, we'll see you in heaven, and then we'll work out the details then, where we will have all the truth. Nice, quiet, calm. I hear little birds out there. We're not springtime yet. This is still February. And we're due to get some really warm weather. It's the warm weather that tricks the people that are new in the area that are moving here. Those of us that have lived here for a while know we get our false spring, our false summer. And it feels so good, and you want to go out and you want to hit the local plant store and buy all these plants, and you put them outside. And right after you do that, we have a week of freezing weather. Not a night where it just kind of harm them a little bit. It will literally kill anything you put in the ground. They tell people here, and anybody moving here that sees this video, don't plan until after Easter. And if you haven't had a cold spell, I'd wait another week or two. We always get one big cold spell just before it turns warm. See, these are the things, if you come here new, you don't know what to expect. If you come to Jesus new, you don't know what to expect. Be careful. Don't go running off and doing things. I can remember how zealous young new Christians are, anxious to get out there. They don't have any impedance, that things that are going to slow them down. They feel so good and they want to get out there. And then Satan is good at this. He'll put you up against a Mormon or a Jehovah's Witness or Science of Mind or one of these cults, which is what they are. He'll put you up against those, and they've got a verse for everything you throw at them. You can't argue with them. They've been doing this for so long. This is Satan's world here. He's good at it. You say, well, this is the verse that says you're wrong. They're going to come up with 10 verses that says you're wrong. And they're out there. The stories are out there. So don't take them on. It's like his disciples that tried to go up against the demons were lost. They got beat. Takes a lot of prayer and fasting. We talked about that. Now, be careful as a new Christian. Don't go running around trying to convert everybody. You can't. And it's not your job to convert anybody. Your job is simply to provide the truth. And frankly, what you need to make sure you're doing is you're providing a witness. If you have stories of miracles, stories of things that would point to God, tell people about them. Anecdotes will work better. Sometimes giving somebody a Bible verse will put you off. They don't want to hear the Bible. So a lot of times you can actually tell them a story that's a Bible story, but don't tell them it's from the Bible. Later on you want to teach, but you're fishing. You're throwing bait out there. You're casting your lure and you're bringing it in. Now, they fish with nets, but they were commercial fishermen. Individually, we're fishing. If you got a church, they're going to cast nets too. But we're individually fishing. You can fly fish or you can fish with a lure, but you're putting bait on the end. If you're fly fishing, you've got a specially wrapped lure that you handmade or one that everybody's using, and you're going to cast it out there, and you're going to watch it. It's just going to sit there, and the fish will come up and grab it. Then you got to set the hook. Then you can reel them in. But you can lose them that whole time in. I have lost many a big fish reeling them in. Some of these fish are big because they've learned how to get off hooks, how to avoid being caught. That's why they're big. Some of them know to fight, and then just relax. And as you relax, the line drops a little bit. And then they open their mouth and the lure comes out. They've learned that. We think they're stupid animals, but they learn. You can train a dog, you can train a cat, you can train a fish. It's not going to get up and walk on water, but you can train a fish a little bit. They know that when if you ever have an aquarium, they know when you come by there and lift the lid. They all come to the water. They know that you're going to feed them. They've been trained. They're not going to get out there with a 6-piece orchestra and perform, but they've been trained to come to food. Everything out there has some ability to be trained. And the greatest teacher on this planet is Satan. His classrooms are packed, full of people wanting to know the truth. But they have their own misconceptions of what the truth is. And Satan can fill that. He's got a false truth to fit anybody's idea of what the universe is like. There's only one way to heaven, according to the truth. But to Satan, there's many ways. And if you get there and you missed even the bad, even all the other ways, there'll be a way specially created just for you. So don't worry about Jesus. We'll get there, and, oh, by the way, do as many good works as you can, and you'll get there on your own without God. That's Satan. And the world will eat that up. You got to give them the truth. But if you were to try to lay out the entire truth all at once, they wouldn't hear it. They'd shut you down. Remember, babes in Christ. You don't feed a baby steak unless it's been pre-digested. Some of that baby food is rather gross, but everything has been processed to be able to feed to them. That's what you got to feed new Christians. You can't go into the depth of the Bible with Christians that are just brand new. They're not ready for it. And some Christians that have unfortunately been Christians for many years have never learned to get off of baby food. I think I mentioned in one of my last videos that most people that go to church don't witness. Most people that go to church don't go there to find out how to help others. They're there just kind of as a respite from the world that's kind of crazy. They go to church to be entertained, to relax a little bit like I'm relaxing here. I can't do this every day. I wouldn't have a message worth it. But I'm telling you, you can take time out, but not long. And this video is somewhat instructional in telling you that you can rest. We can rest from God. God will make us rest. If you like Psalms, go back and read Psalm 23. We have to live by example. We have to set a good example, because if we don't, people won't respect what we tell them. You know, if someone's going to come up and talk to you about don't commit adultery, and he's committed adultery and he's told you about it, and he doesn't have a problem with it, you don't want to listen to that person. If someone tells you that he's the God of peace, they better see it. Now, there's a thing about some preachers get up there and are very energetic, very motivational speaker type. And there are people that need that. But we all have different personalities. We all have different needs. Sometimes we need that. But the best way to get that is to be in small breakout groups. That's why some of the big churches that I go to sometimes have small groups that meet on Sunday and then Wednesday sometimes. The pastor doesn't lead all these other ones. Other people do. So you get a chance to be part of that. And if you can do that, that's good if it's a big church. I would even suggest that you tell your teacher you'd like to teach a lesson here and there. Now, and if it's a big church, you've got a booklet that they come out with for every Sunday, so you really don't have a whole lot of work to do. You might want to go over the booklet before Bible study and look at it and maybe read some of the Bible verses. But they're pretty well laid out, and you can get experience teaching. But there's a place for every one of us and our personalities. Our personalities are going to match up with other people of like personalities. I prefer a nice, calm, quiet attitude. Why get excited? There's nothing I can do about it. I have situations all the time, and I'm talking to God about them all the time. Well, here we are again, another situation for which I have no control over. It's your lead, and I pass it on to God. If your car breaks down in the middle of nowhere, okay, God, this is up to you. I guess you want me to talk to the repair guy or the guy on the phone line that's going to send someone out to rescue me or whatever. There's a reason for everything that happens. Don't jump to conclusions that the things that are happening are because you're doing something wrong. The fact that you make yourself available to God should tell you that you're going to have an interesting life. And things can go wrong from our point of view. But they're not wrong if God set it up. Just be ready. Have the tools that you need. And be in the habit of it. It makes it so much easier if you're used to talking to people about God. One of the pastors that I listened to says that until he figured out how to fly, nobody wanted to sit next to him. If he came out and said, I'm a pastor of a church, the people would turn the other way and not talk to him the whole flight. Until he learned to say, well, I study history and I teach biblical history. He's still the pastor, but he teaches Bible history. People can be interested in Bible history, but not be interested in God, so to speak. Any avenue you can find to work into the conversation. You don't want to alienate somebody right off the bat so they don't want to listen. Again, we're fishing. Any good fisherman has a fairly good-sized toolbox of different lures and different bait, weight, different line. You might even have multiple poles with different weight line on it, different reels. A good fisherman's got all that. And if you're out in a boat, you may have all the gadgets. You may have sonar for under the water to see where the fish are. It won't help you to lure them in, but it will help you to know that they're there. When I lived out in California, Nevada, I'd go fishing at Lake Tahoe. And that is a difficult place to fish. It was. I don't know what the water's like now, but back then, you could count the grains of sand 150 feet down. It was that clear. The fish can see you. You're a long ways away, but they can see you. And more importantly, they can see the lure. If you were to put a worm on a hook and drop it down there, they'd see the hook. And they could eat the worm off the hook without touching the hook. So you got to come up with different means. Minnows work okay. Again, something that does that. You can use certain types of lures, but again, they can see. Sometimes I think they can see the line. So you got to change for wherever you're at. If I were to fish in this lake, they can probably only see 3 inches in front of their face. So as you're casting and reeling in, if it doesn't go right in front of their nose, they won't know it's there. And because it goes right in front of their nose, they have to quickly make a decision. Do I go for it or not? Most of the fish will just quickly bite it. So you can catch pretty good, but you got to find the fish. The lure has to go right in front of their nose. Fishing for Christians is just the same. There's a story for every type of fish you can catch. There's a story for every type of Christian, or at this point, non-Christian you can catch. And sometimes you can catch a Christian who's backslid and pull them back in. That's extra rewarding, it seems like. Because then they can go back to work, helping God. Okay. I just kind of wanted to sit and talk. Finishing up here, I'm done with this camp for a little while. I've got 2 more locations booked. Everything is going smooth for me. I pray to God that it continues to do that. But God also knows I get bored real easy. So I'd like a challenge. So we'll see what he comes up with. Not a challenge, I don't think we're worried about life-threatening challenges yet as Christians. I think those are the left-behind people. But we are going to have some problems before we get to that point. We're already seeing it, where people are having issues with governments. Maybe not so much in the United States, because we've been protected by our founding fathers for so long, but that's slipping away quickly. Are we going to see a nuclear war coming up soon? Well, our big round thing organization wants the population decreased. That's the only reason I can think that our current fearless leader is poking the bear. He's given the bear enough reason to go to war, but he hasn't. Because I think he can see that we're going down on our own and he doesn't need to do anything but just wait it out. But I think there is a limit, a prideful limit, that he won't go past. We'll see if we get there. Helping Ukraine, if Ukraine wins, I think that might really tick him off. But we're told he's going to attack in the Middle East. You know, is the Magog War in the beginning, the middle, or the end? We don't know. I've covered it a number of times, and I still don't know. We have no idea. There's information saying that it could be at any time. There's information saying that it could last all the way to the end. Yes, there's the 7 days of picking up bodies and burning everything. Does that go into the millennium? I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. Okay. You guys have a great week. I'm recording this midweek. Today is always the day that I have to sit and hold my breath a little bit I'm recording this on Wednesday, so I'm trying to get ahead because of the move. Every Wednesday I have to hold my breath at noon because they test all the emergency broadcasting stuff. And I can't hear real well. The speakers are not real close by, so I have to be quiet and listen. Until I hear the word test, this is a test of the emergency broadcasting system. Until I hear that, I'm just, really listening. After that, then they can keep blowing all the sirens, which they do. Knowing that at some point in time, there's going to be a real one. Like I said before, we don't know when, but it's going to be at the last second. We're gone in the twinkling of an eye. Why? Just before the bombs go off, maybe. I don't know. And Satan to be down here trying to get us just before the bombs go off, and maybe it gets him. Maybe we can sit up in heaven and laugh at him. I still like the image of Lucy and Charlie Brown in the football. Lucy's holding the football. Charlie Brown's going to kick it. And just before he kicks it, Lucy pulls the football away, and Charlie Brown lands on his back. Charlie Brown character is representing Satan. Lucy's representing God. We're going to watch Satan again miss. He keeps missing. He's not a very good shot because God's always ahead of him. Okay, until we meet in the clouds, God bless. Well, there's how close he is to my campsite.